Welcome everybody once again to the Magic Table. It is so good that y'all are here with us at the Magic Table. We explained what the Magic Table was last time. Do we need to explain again?
No.
Okay. Well, this is a time for me and JJ just to talk about whatever comes up, whatever we're feeling at the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this week I interviewed Karen Swallow Pryor. So this is the episode that's going to be coming out this next Tuesday. On a book called You Have a Calling. And so we're talking about calling, and it made me think like, I want to talk to you about calling and how you see your calling. So maybe a theology of hustle sort of
vibe.
thing. Yeah.
Also, when you brought this up, we've literally never talked about this before, how you're framing it for this episode.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting.
Well, and we did the second interview we ever did for Theology of Hustle was you. You interviewed me for the first one, and then I interviewed you for the second one.
Yep.
We went back and listened to it on our anniversary trip.
As we were driving around thrifting, as you do.
Indeed. That's how everybody spends their anniversary.
20 years.
Yeah.
We're thrifting.
Yeah. That's great. But we listened to that episode, and we have come a long way in 8 years.
Guys, it's so rough. Don't listen to it.
It was rough.
And everyone who's like, oh my gosh, y'all are so good together. It's because we've done reps.
Yes.
And I have forgotten that is true.
Yes.
There were times we were looking at each other like, do we actually finish listening to this?
Excruciating.
Because it's terrible.
Yeah. You just learn. I mean, this is how you
learn.
That's so anyway, one takeaway was we've come a long way in 8 years. We're much better.
Way.
The second takeaway for me was you're crazy.
I love it because that's not even offensive to me at all.
She just knows. She knows she's crazy.
No.
She knows she's crazy. So, but you forget how crazy you were, because you're definitely not as crazy as you used to be.
Can we also clarify when you say crazy about my work?
Yes. So the reason that I say that you're crazy is because you've always just pursued the wackiest jobs. Could it be as hardcore as possible? How hardcore? What is the wildest population I could work with? That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make zero money doing it. I'm basically volunteering.
And I'm going to love it with my whole heart.
It's ridiculous. Thinking back on some of your stories, you told a story, and we still haven't talked to your mom about this. You literally told a story where a cop told you had to go stop seeing clients at an apartment complex at night.
Yes. As we were listening, I'd forgotten that was true. And literally had a police officer be like, ma'am, which is funny. I was 21. He was like, you shouldn't be here. And I was like, I'm doing therapy at this apartment. And he was like, yeah, this is not a place that you should be. You can't keep doing this. And I was like, oh, I didn't know.
So you did apologize to your mom because she probably found that out on that episode.
Yeah, she probably doesn't remember that. So again, sorry, Mom, that you find out things on the podcast.
And your dad told you not to tell your mom about it.
That's true. Because some of my jobs, I might have put myself in danger. And I was too dumb to know that I was putting myself in danger.
Well, and the crazy part, go ahead.
Well, not dumb. Yeah. I just I didn't think about things like safety. So maybe not dumb, naive.
Yeah. And I think there was a sense of purpose that you had.
Yeah.
Right? That made you kind of feel
no one's going to hurt me.
And, yeah. You used to always say that it would definitely people wouldn't mess with you because it would definitely make the news and they would be in big trouble because the sob story about this social worker,
crazy lady in this neighborhood.
Yes. Which I don't think people are that rational when they think about, mugging somebody. Gee, let me think this through. Should I mug this lady? Well, it could make the news. I generally don't think that's the thought process.
My brain wasn't fully developed yet. It's fine.
I forget how crazy you were, and dragged me into most of it. So let's just tick through the jobs. And this is post grad school. So let's start at LSSI.
Okay.
Okay. So what was your first job?
I worked in the women's prison system
Yes.
in Illinois. So I visited all the women's prisons every month and the men's federal prison.
Yes. So in and out of prison, we call that one.
Yep.
And so you were working with women mostly in their first 90 days out of prison to help them get IDs and like legit like
help them get on their feet as they transitioned from being incarcerated.
So you got a little burned out from that.
Yep.
Needed something else, and you got a much more relaxed job doing what on the West Side?
I worked with gang-involved adolescents who were using drugs mostly on the West Side.
Yes.
That was my favorite job.
Were they mandated to see you?
Not all of them.
Not all of them. I love that not all of them.
So I worked with kids on probation. They were mandated to see me. We ran groups in schools.
Yes.
So a lot of them were mandated because of gang stuff. And then we just had kids who came for individual counseling because of stressors. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that job was wild. You had your car marked by a gang at that job.
Yeah.
So you weren't allowed to like take certain students home late at night.
I knew where I could drive and where I couldn't drive.
You know what's crazy about that job is the population wasn't the craziest part. Your boss was the craziest part of that whole job.
That's true.
You know. Okay, so we burn out on that. That's a little much. We need to be closer to where we live now, out in the burbs.
Yeah.
And so you get a job doing what?
Foster care. But I was the intake worker, so I had to like remove kids / place them when they had been removed. I only lasted, I think, 10 months.
Yeah, you were in the full year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I was not.
That was a really hard job, but has paid dividends as we've been in the foster and adoptive world. You know a lot about the foster care system.
Yep. Was in court a lot, testifying a lot.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
Yeah.
Not what I was created to do.
And were you making, I can't remember, like a lot of money at that one?
I made the most money I'd ever made by $500.
Not that it's always about the money. It's just
at that job.
It is wild to me. Just like the things that you would do would like most people just couldn't even fathom doing something like that. And not only did you do it and loved it, you got paid almost nothing for it. It's amazing to me. Yeah. So you totally burnt out of social work and you took a little detour.
So then I managed a cloth diaper store for like 2 years, I think.
Yeah. Which had its own population.
Yeah.
What did you discover at that job?
That I had left social work because I was over it. And I did a lot of therapy with new moms. Yeah. So basically, it was this tiny little boutique that sold cloth diapers. We cloth diapered our big kids, and I did a lot of therapy. And I realized I wasn't doing mental health work anymore. And I was doing your mental health work.
Wherever you go.
Yeah.
You go to the grocery store and you do a little mental health work.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so then it's time to get a real job.
Yep.
And so you head to
the ER.
We call it the ED in the professional,
Yes, we do actually call it the ED, but then people think that means something else.
I'm always very confused when you say that. I'm like, wait,
emergency department. It's
yes.
not a room, it's a department.
Yes.
And so I was there for 6 years, longest job I've ever had.
What does a social worker do in the ED?
Well, we saw anyone who came in for anxiety, depression, suicidality, being homicidal, domestic violence, child abuse, sexual violence. I think that's the high
pretty
points.
much anything that happens that's wild, you deal with.
Yeah. Did
People
I say
needing
it's
services?
substance abuse, addiction?
I think so.
Detox.
So. Yeah.
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 So we saw some stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are a few places where you would see more urgent mental health crises like in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe at an inpatient facility.
Well, but we saw him
yeah.
inpatient. And so, yeah, it was a fast-paced, a lot going on.
And it was a big ED
yes.
at a giant hospital that was like a pretty high-level trauma center. You saw a lot of that sort of stuff over 6 years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like lost in the semantics of like, well, I mean, we were only like a level 2 trauma center, not like a level 1. But yes, we saw...
Helicopters would fly in there.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But we weren't the first stop for a helicopter, you know?
Yeah. So pretty low level trauma.
So low level. And yeah, it was wild. And I feel like of all my jobs, I learned the most. I became the most confident because like I worked my first 4 years, I think, overnights solo.
Yeah.
So I was a strong clinician. I think I was a good clinician before that. I became a really strong clinician because I was like dependent on myself and my own skills. And I learned a lot about collaboration with medical providers and working with psychiatry and inpatient and insurance, and learned so much and really felt confident in my work there.
Like basically prepped you to go into individual therapy.
Yes.
Which you said you would never do because
that is the cushy job. And I'm not a cushy. I'm a community
I think you
mental
said
health.
Bougie.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And I really felt like I was a community mental health person, and like individual therapy, private practice kind of felt like a sellout job to me.
I don't think a lot of people understand this. What do you mean when you say you were a community mental health person versus like somebody who does their individual therapy?
So, I mean, we've talked about the pay is pretty terrible.
Yeah, because it's nonprofit. But
yes,
a lot of nonprofits are, like that.
Yes.
Right?
Also, community mental health for me we were government funded, and so a lot of time, lobbying for funding to keep my job.
Right.
A lot of times of being like, we've got 4 weeks and we're closing. And so we would be lobbying. I don't think I ever went to the Capitol, but we were like in Chicago kind of with our legislators, like lobbying for funding for the work that we did.
Because these are state-run programs most of the time, right? Community health is mental health that's like funded by the state.
The community.
Yeah, right,
You're
exactly.
in the community. Yeah. And so I really, really valued that work. And so part of what moved me from that is realizing when I was at the hospital, in my first 5 years, I had seen one actively homicidal individual. In my last 6 months, I saw 3. And so realizing as funding has shifted in mental health, as the world has changed, a lot of people weren't getting the services that they needed provided to them. Therefore, they were ending up in the ER, which was not the appropriate place. And yet they were there and they needed care. And so that I realized I wasn't doing the work that I wanted to do anymore.
Yes, because at the time, Illinois had actually closed a state facility nearby. Or they were not taking as many patients. There was something to do with funding. Yes. And so all that got pushed into your, private hospital because there was no funding statewide for these sorts of issues. Yeah. So you end up handling them. Okay. All that was preamble to kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Which was this sense of calling that you had that prompted you to do it. Like, okay, I'll throw this out there. Maybe you can kind of critique it or take it wherever you want. But it seems like you were so driven. Like there was always just a sense of call. And so you would burn out on specific jobs and specific populations, but you never burnt out on the call. Is that true?
I mean, it's hard to look back on now. It feels so far. I think, yes, part of it. I do think after doing the foster care work, I was burned out on the call.
Okay.
And honestly, I think doing the foster care work, being in court, I was also like 2 months into that job, something like that, 2 to 3 months in, I got pregnant with our oldest. And so doing that job really pregnant, driving all over the state for home visits, like broke me in a way that I hadn't been broken before. Like that wasn't a good fit for me just for work in general. It was truly heartbreaking work day in and day out. And so like, I feel like in that season, being pregnant, welcoming our first child, and walking with people who were losing custody of their kids was like really more than emotionally I could deal with. Yeah. And so I think that particular season was unique in that there was a break in that call of like, this is asking more of me than I have the capacity to give. And so, you know, I worked at the cloth diaper store and then realized like, oh, maybe I'm not done with social work.
Yeah. And you came back. I mean, you needed like a palate cleanse almost, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had another child. We had our second child in the midst of all of that as well.
Yeah.
Raising very littles, you know, infants is a whole different deal.
Yeah.
I guess, but you had gotten that calling so early in life, maybe not specifically like social work, but this desire to like help people. I mean, you were in high school and like visiting peers at the juvenile justice facility. Like in high school
was a weirdo.
You were a weirdo.
And yes, I did feel, and I also think like it was something I was good at.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I have always had the skill set to create space. And I knew like I can hold space for people walking through hard things and enter into hard things with people. And I am unfazed in a way that other people are not unfazed.
You knew that like from a pretty young age?
I think so. I couldn't have probably articulated that, but like going in, so my last 2 years of high school, like I think twice a month, I went to the detention center with my church to do like Bible study with kids who were my peers.
Yeah.
And like walking into a locked facility, like did not faze me. I don't know.
It goes back to that like not being concerned. I mean, that was like to walk into a facility. I mean, I've been to one as a visitor in my entire life, and it was pretty intimidating. I will say when we went to Cook County jail.
Oh yeah.
That was the only time I've ever been in a facility like that. That was like nothing to you. You were literally in with these women at the time, you know, when you were doing that. But even like in high school, that didn't bother you at all. You were like, oh, I'm locked in here with people who committed crimes, and it's just not a big deal.
I don't know.
I'm just asking. I'm clarifying.
No, like, I don't know. People are people. And I was not fazed. People would be like, what did they do? I'm like, I don't know. We don't talk about that. It just, I don't know why it didn't faze me.
Yeah. And you just always pursued that. I mean, it just feels so clear in your life. Like something a lot of people struggle, I don't know, in talking to our bigs right now. And like, I mean, we're talking about what you're going to do with your life and all this stuff. And my advice to them keeps being like, listen, you have so much time to kind of like work this out. And I do, I believe in that. And someone like you, I mean, you were called and you pursued a calling like from high school, it seems, you know what I mean? So I guess I want to just kind of explore like how we experience calling and what that means and how we kind of walk that out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me too, I was called. I mean, when we met, I had just gotten a call to ministry. I didn't even know what ministry really was at the time. I was a pretty young Christian. I mean, I knew what pastors were. I didn't know really what they even did though. And I was like very self-assured at this would be 18 years old.
Yeah.
That I was supposed to be a pastor, kind of a baby Christian, or I had just recently kind of come back to Jesus. And like, you know, I don't know. Once that happened, the call was like very clear, you know? And so I just kind of pursued that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of working through this because here's what started to happen though. As I kind of pursued that calling into ministry, I started, I think now looking back, to believe a lie. And that lie was that your calling, if just walking out your calling, almost a prosperity gospel of if you pursue the thing that God has called you to, then like the seas will part, and you will walk through and there will be no struggle. You're gonna make good money. It may be hard at first, but you'll find a way to make good money and support your family. And like, I started to believe almost a prosperity gospel, a calling prosperity gospel, where if I just pursued my calling, it would meet, maybe some emotional needs that I had, that it would meet all of my needs if I was just sort of like walking in God's will. Does that
totally make sense?
And I don't know what I'm even like working through here, I guess, but I like, how do we get there,
Well, and I think it's like the contrast of how you see your calling, right, of how that played out different than how my quote unquote calling played out. Right. I also do think like there were even hiccups in my journey that created shifts in jobs that when you're in ministry, you can't always make those same types of shifts.
That is a helpful reframe. Like, yeah, look at me using therapy speak. But I hadn't thought about that. You're right. Like, and I could have, had I really wanted to, I could have job hopped in ministry.
For sure.
There are people that do that.
Yes.
Right. And for good reasons. I'm not condemning that or anything. We just felt very called to the place that we were for like a long period of time. And that's helpful. Like, because you could explore something new. I mean, with a social work degree, you can do so many things. With a ministry degree, you're a little more hemmed in as to what you can do, right?
Yeah.
Especially at first.
I think the other piece of this too, though, that like we joke about and aren't necessarily talking about is because of this, like, your more stable call to ministry and faithfulness to that, while also working at Starbucks for a decade.
We did need insurance. Yeah.
We did need insurance because community mental health doesn't have great benefits in addition to terrible pay.
So strange. That's wild.
And we like laugh about it, and maybe it's so that we don't cry. But I mean, I had like 6 jobs in the time that you had like the one.
Yeah. The one job, the 2 jobs at the same time.
Yes.
Yes.
The bivocational pastor piece.
Right.
And so even like, I think for our story and our journey, a piece of it is I got to pursue calling in the way that I wanted because you were steady and steadfast. And I think we joke about it. And I got to pursue things because you chose steadiness and that call.
Yeah. Even the overnight thing. I mean, we just kind of always made it work, right? However you.
Okay. It's insane though, really, because I started my one consistent overnight when Bennett was 5 weeks old.
Yeah.
Bananas. So I would work Tuesday overnights. I would get home at 6. You would leave at 6:30 to start a 7 o'clock shift at Starbucks and then work 8 hours.
I had to go 7 to 3:30. Yeah.
And just like the thought, my 42-year-old body thinks about staying up all night and then coming home having not slept to a 5-week-old and a 2-year-old and just like carrying on. And then I, adding a second over, like there's just so many logistics of the crazy to even make the calling work.
Yeah.
That feel bananas.
Just hustling, baby.
Hustling.
And I guess I'm looking back on like our calling and like the things that we've done, and like I don't know, still exploring some of like what I was even meant to do. And here's the tricky part though, that I think a lot of people struggle with. So I feel like I'm naming something hopefully other people are really struggling with, because once you feel like you have a calling or feel like you know the path that God has for you, if you've bought into this idea, which I think most of us have, that like of almost a prosperity gospel, vocational prosperity gospel, is what I'm going to call it. TM. That's trademark now. I forgot what it was even. So, but
vocational prosperity gospel.
So if we have believed in this and our expectation based on that false gospel is that everything's going to work out fine and the money will come and, you know, all the stars will align and you'll get to like do your calling, when those things don't come to us as easy as we think, we start to really doubt the call. We start to doubt God.
For sure.
I mean, it leads to a lot of like really, I think, dangerous stuff, you know, because we have this expectation that what God has called us to, that following what God has called us to is going to lead to this vocational prosperity, you know? And so I worry, even in doing the podcast and even talking about our lives, I don't ever want it to sound simple. Yeah. And like we've always had it figured out, and that, you know, there's been a straight line, because there has been like so many zigs and zags that like, it's hard to even like we did the quick rundown, and there's so many things that happened even when all of that, like getting into ministry, and I mean, just so many twists and turns you can't even fathom, you know, them.
Yeah. And I do think it's important, like you said, expectations.
Yeah.
You know, circling back to like what we talk about on my podcast.
Very much.
Of just this, when we feel we are following God's call, we have an expectation of how God will meet that.
Yeah.
And I think in exploring how we've both pursued calling, we've had so many expectations. I mean, I think about like, even my very first job, I was like a newly minted social worker. I had a master's degree, and I thought like I was God's gift to the field.
You were saving the world.
Saving the world.
In
my mind.
Yeah.
And anyone would be lucky to have me.
100%.
And
sure. That's for sure true.
And like literally probably applied to like 100 jobs.
Yeah.
This was the only job that I got an interview for.
Yeah.
And I got that job. And like doing that work, it was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I didn't know that I could love the prison system. And I didn't know I could love this work. And there was some really horrific leadership changes. And like this beloved workplace became toxic. It was like more layered because it was a ministry, and I was like, oh my gosh, you people are crazy.
Well, and I was still at Mood, like I was still in Bible college at the time,
right?
And it was like, what are we doing?
Yes.
You know?
Is this how Christians show up in the world? What are we choosing? And then going to my next job, which if you don't know me and haven't had a conversation in real life with me, like juvenile delinquents are my very favorite population.
Yep.
If we didn't have kids, I would be in like probation or juvenile justice. The safety piece and then like just the time requirement are not for me feasible for having a family. And I thought, this is it. Like I will do this job for the rest of my life. And again, a really horrific administrative thing happened. And that work I actually left that job without having another job to go to. It became so horrific. And so just even this, like, even in my call, like, yes, I've always known, like, this is what I'm pursuing. when you like spell it all out like that, it seems like I just made one step after.
And they were all intentional and planned out.
And I mean, really, when I went to that foster care job, I interviewed, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then they called me 2 weeks later and were like, hey, the person that we hired never showed up. Would you like this job? And like, there's nothing better than being like, I'm your second choice and I'm actually unemployed now.
When the other person literally got the job and just straight didn't show up to it.
Yeah. So what does that say about me that I did show up? And so I think having more nuanced conversation about what does calling mean? How do we look for God in the places that like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I was created to do. And also in the, where are you? What am I doing? This isn't what I signed up for. And how are we navigating the balance of those two things as humans?
And pouring into young people in the same way. Like, as we're talking to our kids right now, how am I talking to them in ways that like set them up for success without these expectations? I don't like, it's not like somebody set me down and was like, your calling is this. And so your life's going to be perfect if you just follow God's will. But somehow like, I just started to believe these things, you know?
Yes. And I think it's just constantly reinforced. Just like an aside, because you did put a microphone in front of my mouth. Asides. Like our oldest is 15 years old. The number of people that are already saying, what are you thinking about school? It is reinforcing, find your calling, figure it out. And yes, we should be planning for our futures. And this is not what totally defines her. So if you're having conversations with her or any of our children, like, how do we ask different questions about who they are? What brings them joy? What are they interested in versus what are you thinking about for college? What do you want to, like, she's 15 years old. Yeah. Give her a break. Give all children.
I'm 42 and I'm still not quite sure. So
right. You know, and so I think where are the places as adults with more lived experience, are we changing the narrative for people coming up behind us to say, like, what does it look like to explore calling? What does calling mean? What does it mean to feel called to something that is hard, that isn't lucrative? How do you continue calling when you feel like God's not there? So how are you engaging in those conversations with my children versus where are you going to college and what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Let's add more depth and breadth to the conversation.
Oh, nice soapbox.
You know, I already, I always have one.
Great work there with the soapbox. Yeah, I think that's really good. I think we can ask better questions. And I think even the expectations like you, I mean, you're 22 and you have a master's degree, but in the grand scheme of things, like, who really cares? Like, without some experience.
And that is what I did not understand.
It's crazy.
Of like, I have worked in juvenile justice. Like, I know some stuff. And like, for me, the longer I've been in this field, the more work I've done with people, you know, I mean, because we stopped at the hospital. I went into a practice, worked there 4 years. We moved here. I had the hardest job I've ever had, working for a school district, and then opened my own practice. And so I think even in that, like, the call to marginalized and hurting people has always existed, and it's never looked the same.
Yeah.
And we don't give space for calling to morph and change and look different. Yeah. We expect that our call is going to be like linear and easy. And there's just, it deprives, like, I think, us of the experience of, like, there's so much nuance to it. That nuance adds such beauty to our story. And when I look back at that 22-year-old version of myself, like, just with such, like, grace and kindness of, like, girl, you don't even know all the things that you didn't know. And the longer I've done this work, I feel like there's so much that I don't know. And And to me, that is part of my calling. I have moved from totally assured and knowing exactly, quote unquote, where I was headed, which I knew was juvenile justice, and I could not get that job to save my life.
Yeah.
And now I own my own practice, and I feel like, yes, I'm really a strong clinician based on all this lived experience. And at 42, feel like I know even less than I knew when I got started.
Still a long way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's helpful. And just like you're going to have to learn, no matter how called you are and how good you are at whatever you do, like it's just, learning is just going to be a process, right? And God is, I don't know, God, I feel like God is just so much more interested in kind of who we are than these things that we do. Because, if you get a crazy high paying, whatever your dream is, I don't know, whatever American dream you have, and it like, you skyrocket to the top and you're at the peak, and like haven't spent time building character previously, then when you get to the top, you're going to be someone at the top with no character, and I think we don't give ourselves enough time of that character building, like building these soft skills of like who we are, and man, God is so much more concerned with that than the actual, I think, work that we do, that we put our hands to necessarily.
Yeah, it makes me think about refining. Like sometimes I will sit with a client and we're like talking through their story and their experience. And I think, oh my gosh, God loves you so much. Like this is what I think in my head, not what I tell my client. But like God loves you so much that I've actually had this lived experience that has prepped me to meet you where you are, and you don't even know. Like my career has refined me and challenged me and strengthened me so that my clients who are showing up now to my practice get this like richer, fuller, more knowledgeable version of who I hoped to be. And like, not only is that a gift to me that God has chosen through this wild work experience to refine me, like it's not only his love of me, but it's a love of the people, like his love of the people that I will interact with, that like literally there are people who sit across from me that I'm like, God has given me these wild experiences so I can meet you in this moment.
I'm not surprised right now. Or,
yes. And I think sometimes we think about our calling is us, and it is like very egocentric.
Are you bringing community into this?
Probably.
Dang.
Next
level.
I also think sometimes calling is more than us. Calling is about who God is creating us to be, yes, for community, for the people we work with, for the people, like the children that we parent. Like I parent differently because of my work experience. And God loves our kids so much that he has given us these experiences that we can shepherd them in different ways. And I think we think calling is so hyper-focused on who we are and who God wants us to be. And I think that's part of it. But I think sometimes it's a broader idea of like, who does God want us to be in the world, for the people we come in contact with, for the people we work with, the people we see at the grocery store, who we go to church with, the children we're parenting. And that to me shifts what calling is.
100%. I think I just had a revelation, and I think it's what you're saying. I think you just gave me a revelation in that. What if our calling is more about other people than it is about us? Like God has created us to do work in this world in order to make this world better in so many ways, which involves other people, because there's other people in this world. Yeah, I don't know.
Are there?
Yeah. God, our calling is about others more than it is about ourselves, and yet all of our talk about calling is
us.
Me focused.
Yep.
I realize some people can't see me. I'm pointing to myself. Is us focused. anytime we talk about calling, it's like, what are my skills and gifts, and how does this calling meet my needs? Maybe a better question is, how is this calling meeting the needs of my neighbors?
Or God's kingdom.
God's kingdom, right. That's good. I feel like we worked through some stuff there. I
mean, who doesn't want to listen to us work through all our stuff on microphones?
That's what we do. That's what we do. It's kind of funny because you haven't even heard this interview I just did with Karen Swallow Pryor, and it's coming out next week. So this is almost like my reflections on that conversation, but you're going to hear it before you hear the conversation.
We are prepping you for that episode.
Preparation, But key takeaways. Let's get rid of the vocational prosperity gospel. Done. Okay. Let's just throw it away. It's done. And JJ's crazy.
It's true. I mean, that still holds true.
There we go.
I love what I love.
It's key. Yeah. No, it's been fun. It's been a wild ride. And so, I mean, your calling has affected me in so many ways, and given me a similar heart, and my calling has affected you in so many ways. And so, like, our callings have sort of combined, intertwined to do something even better, which is like really cool and exciting. And we have walked through the freaking fire to get that, like, and talk about refining. Like we have walked the walk, and we've earned any of that we now see. It's just not going to be as easy as we want it to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what we just did, but we hung out at the magic table, and that's what it's about a lot of times. Be sure you're following the podcast. Obviously, this is super fun. If you have thoughts of stuff you want us to talk about at the magic table, we'd be more than happy to talk about those. So hit me up on Instagram at Theology of Hustle.
Or text us. If you know us in real life,
yeah.
Those are my favorite. When you're like, hey, I just listened to the magic table. This is what I'd like you to talk about. Done.
Yeah. You can also follow JJ at With Counseling. At Counseling With.
Yeah.
On Instagram, if you like, because we put out some stuff there every once in a while as well.
Yeah. Maybe we'll start doing that. I'll start doing that again now that our kids are back in school.
Yeah. So, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time at the magic table.